Hi everybody, I hope that you're all doing really well. So today I am back to do a little bit of a book haul, and by a little bit of a book haul, I mean a lot of bit of a book haul, because even though like for the past few weeks I've been like telling myself off and being like, yes, you need to work on your TBR, whittle down that TBR, in the same breath I have then gone out into different bookshops and bought some books, haven't I? Now, I mean, my justification for this is that I have recently moved. I have gone from Yorkshire down to Oxfordshire for work, and you know, I want to experience things now that shops are back up open and people can go, you know, obviously like socially distanced with masks on. You know, I want to look at the bookshops because I've not been in a bookshop for a very long time. And you know, I want to support my new local bookshops and I want to boost my new county's economy. So yeah, some books have been bought. So yeah, these are the books that I have bought since I have moved house. I want to make very, very clear that these books were not all purchased at once. This has been the workings of multiple trips to bookshops. I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but also because I now live somewhere that is very close to the town centre, which is not the biggest town centre in the world, it's quite a small one, but there are some charity shops, which is really bad because it means that I am no more than like 10 minutes walk away from books. Quite dangerous actually. I also work in a different town which has its own lot of shops. I'm not too far away from Oxford city centre, which of course has like the Blackwells, which I've not been to yet, and it has a massive Waterstones, which is the most glorious thing I've ever seen. So you know, there are just a lot of opportunities for me to buy books, and what am I meant to do? But enough gabbling on. Let's get into the books. I've kind of split these books based on how and where I bought them. So first off, I'm actually going to talk about books that I got as gifts. First off, my friend Rachel sent me a lovely little present to basically commemorate me moving house, getting my new job, which was so lovely of her. She got me this, which is Good Morning, Good Night, Little Pep Talks for Me and You by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who of course is the writer, the star of Hamilton. One of my absolute favourite people, so of course I was so excited to receive this. This is all just full of short form little messages to kind of boost you up in the morning, pep you up, and it's all based around tweets that he sent out, I think, over the course of about a year. This little project of just pepping people up in the morning and in the evening. I've read this already, I really enjoy it. I think if you are a fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda, then, you know, definitely give it a go if you like just boosts of motivation. And then out of the blue, I got sent a little book package from my mother, which was so lovely. The one that I've read so far is Much Ado About Mean Girls. This, like my The Taming of the Clueless, is a retelling of Mean Girls, of the Mean Girls script, but Shakespeareanized. Which, I mean, why would you not want that? And the one that I have not yet read is The Covent Garden Ladies by Hallie Rubenhold, who is the author of The Five, which I know is really, really popular. This is one of her older books, but was reissued after The Five found such success. And this is non-fiction history all about the 18th century and the women who worked in Covent Garden. Covent Garden in the 18th century was kind of notorious for being like the prime place for sex work. And yeah, this is all basically about what went down there and what these women got up to, learning more about their lives. And according to the front cover, this was actually the book that inspired the show Harlots, which I've never actually seen, so do let me know if that's any good. My next little pile of books I'm going to talk to you about were books that I treated myself to on my first payday. Just got to my first payday after moving out, and I was just like, you know what I really want to do? I want to pre-order some books, because I rarely pre-order stuff. I know that pre-ordering is the best way to make sure that a book is successful. It can really be make or break that first week after a book has been published as to how well it's going to do, and particularly how many resources a company is going to feel they can put towards that book. So yeah, I'd had a couple of books that I'd had my eye on, and when I got my first paycheck, I was just like, I'm going over there and buying those. Which was also really nice because it was kind of delayed gratification. I had to wait for these books to actually get shipped to me. And also because I really wanted to pre-order some books from Blackwell's. For one thing, it feels nice to not just buy stuff from Amazon. You know, we don't really need to give Jeff Bezos any more money. But also because I've just moved to Oxford and it just feels really nice to support an Oxford-based seller. So first off, I picked up The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. I actually only found out about this book really recently when it was shortlisted for the Walter Scott Prize, which is a literary prize that honours historical fiction. And I was really intrigued by it, not only because it had been shortlisted, but also because I believe it's set in Oxford. And you know, the stars were just aligning, I was getting paid, set in Oxford, buying from Blackwell's, and I was just like, yes, please. And from what I've heard other people talking about this book, it's all about a girl who kind of collects words together that have not been put into the Oxford English Dictionary, basically because they are seen as language of the lower classes. So she's collecting all of these words that have been neglected. I could be completely wrong about that, I've not yet read it, but it just seemed like a really interesting story. And of course, like, it's beautiful, beautiful cover, it's got gorgeous, gorgeous end papers. I don't think it's got anything on the side, no it's not. But also, very excitingly, It's signed with this lovely little book plate. I love that. So yes, I am very, very excited to read this. And then the second pre-order that I made that just arrived yesterday is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. This is one of my most anticipated books of this year. And this is basically a Greek myth retelling of Theseus and the Minotaur, but told from the perspective of Ariadne, who helps out Theseus and who Theseus does not treat very nicely. Once again, gorgeous. Gorgeous cover. The end papers are absolutely stunning. If you take off the dust jacket, the spine is to die for. And then once again, this is why you should order everything from Blackwell's. Signed. Signed by the author. And yeah, I'm so excited to read this. I think this might be the next book that I pick up. I think especially after reading Heroes by Stephen Fry, and he went through the story of Theseus and the Minotaur. And you know, he talked about Ariadne and her part in Theseus's story. And I actually never heard of Ariadne before. The first time that I came across the story of Theseus and the Minotaur was actually in primary school. I remember in year 5, we had acting classes for a couple of weeks where an actor came in and just did like little drama classes with us. And then we ended up doing a performance. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but I played Theseus, basically because none of the boys wanted to, but you know, it was a great moment for me. But they never mentioned Ariadne, and I don't know if it's just that, you know, we were kids and they wanted to make Theseus look a lot more heroic than he actually was. So when Stephen Fry was talking about her story, it was just so tragic and heartbreaking, and I was just like, I want to hear more about her. So when I saw that this was coming out, I was like, sign me up, I am there. I feel like I look very, very orange today. I've been playing around with a darker foundation and I'm not sure. And then next up, I've got a few charity shop buys. First 2 books that I picked up from charity shops that are quite close to where I live. I picked up this, which is The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. I think I'd heard of Elizabeth von Arnim because she wrote Elizabeth and Her German Garden. Is that right? And yeah, I didn't really know anything about this, but I know that it is currently the 1900 to 1950 readathon, where for the month of May, people are reading books that were written in that 50-year period, and it's hosted by Katie from Books and Things. I wasn't really planning on taking part because I didn't really have anything on my TBR that really fit. So when I saw this and it was like 50p, I was like, okay. And this is just a story about 4 women who end up going on holiday together. They've never met each other before, but they all kind of want to have time off. They're very dissatisfied in their marriages, and they just want time to regroup and relax. It was originally published in 1922 and apparently was a big deal, a big bestseller at the time. So it just seemed very intriguing to me. It's just a shame that I didn't see it earlier because I could have actually read it in April. And then the next book that I got in a charity shop near me was actually the first book that I purchased upon moving to Oxford, so it feels very special to me, which is this biography of Marie Antoinette by Antonia Fraser. I don't know when I'm actually going to end up picking this up, but you know, it's one that's been on my radar for a really long time. So I saw it and I thought, you know, when else am I going to see this in a charity shop for £1? Like, she's coming home. She's coming home with me. I feel like Antonia Fraser always writes these really classic biographies that everybody always recommends. And I've never actually read anything by her, so I felt like I had to, you know, fill that gap in my reading. You know, I know bits and pieces about Marie Antoinette, I know bits and pieces about the French Revolution, but not as much as I would like to. So yes, very excited to read this. And then last week I was actually working in my offices, and it had been quite a busy day and I was on my lunch break, and so I just decided to run into one of the bookshops nearby for just a couple of minutes. And maybe shouldn't have done it because came out with books, didn't I? I mean, just charity shops that have good selections, I'm a sucker for them. And they had some books that I just didn't think I would find anywhere else. I had to do it. First off, I found Blake by Peter Ackroyd, a biography of the artist and poet William Blake. But I was so drawn to this because about 1.5 years ago, when I finished my MA course, I went down to London and I went to the Tate Britain, and they had a whole exhibition about William Blake. And I didn't really know that William Blake was an artist. And really, he was an artist first and a poet second. But I remember for A-level, we'd studied his Songs of Innocence and of Experience. And my teacher had mentioned that there were paintings, but I can't remember if he actually said that he'd done them himself. So when I went to the Tate Britain, I was just like, wow, this man led an interesting life. And I feel like I trust Peter Ackroyd. I've previously read a Thomas More biography by him. So yeah, I just thought this was an interesting read that I wouldn't find anywhere else. Very keen to learn more about William Blake. And then actually the first thing that I saw when I went into this bookshop near my workplace was this. And I think this is just a sign of how you can take the girl out of Halifax, but you can't take the Halifax out of the girl. Because this is Gentleman Jack, Regency landowner, seducer, and secret diarist. This is a biography of Anne Lister, who was one of Halifax's most famous residents. I'd previously read Anne Chome's biography of Anne Lister, but it only really covered the events from the first season of the show. It didn't cover her entire life. So when I saw this, I was like, mine. I know I've mentioned before, I actually did work experience at Guildenstern, which was Anne Lister's residence, and that was just before Gentleman Jack came out on television, so it was a really exciting time. And she's such a fascinating figure. She's somebody who, like, you can admire so much, but also was not the nicest person. She was so revolutionary in a lot of ways, but then also really backwards in her thinking, and honestly kind of mean. Like, I feel like if I met her in real life, I would hate her. I'd just be like, why'd you have to be so rude? She's such a fascinating figure, and you know, she is an icon of my hometown, so yes. And then the last thing that I picked up from that charity shop was Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard. This is a play. It is a retelling of Shakespeare's Hamlet, but from the perspective of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, who are very minor characters. So minor that their deaths occur off screen and are only mentioned through this line, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. And yeah, I picked this up because I'd always heard really good things about this play. I've been really, really keen to reread Hamlet. So I definitely want to pick up a copy of Hamlet and then read both of them back to back. And also because I don't read very many plays and I've heard such good things about this one. I'm on a bit of a Shakespeare kick, so I feel like this will be a good one to go to. And then the last little stack of books I have to show you today are books that I picked up over the weekend when I met up with one of my colleagues and we went to Daunt Books. I feel like the Daunt Books that most people will know about is the one in London. It is a glorious, beautiful, beautiful shop. But what I didn't know is that there is actually one just outside of Oxford. And I believe it only recently opened. And they just have such a great selection of books in there. And what's also really interesting about Daunt Books is that they organise a lot of their books by the country that it's based. And it'll be a mix of fiction and non-fiction. So you'll have an entire shelf full of books that are set in France, books that are set in China. And it'll just be this big mix of books. And I think that's such an interesting way to set up your shop. And neither of us had ever been to this Daunt Book, so it was just really exciting. Oh, and also before I get into the books that I bought from Daunt Books itself, I also snuck into the charity shops that are very, very close to Daunt Books. And I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of the books that these charity shops get are books that people have just bought from Daunt Books, who have then read them once and then just given them back to the charity shop. And I say that because they had some really fantastic, like, hardback new releases in there. And I think you'll agree with me when you see that one of those charity shop finds was Mrs. Death by Selena Godden. This has just come out. I'm pretty sure this is a 2021 release. Yeah, this pretty much just came out this year. And yeah, I was able to find it in a charity shop for $4.99. Like, madness! And I've been really, really intrigued by this book because it is about a female death. I know I've mentioned previously that one of my favourite tropes is like personifications of death. So even though I don't really know much about the plot of this, the idea that it is about a female death, so interesting. And then the other book that I bought from that very well-stocked charity shop was a book that I've never heard of. This is The Revolt by Clara Dupont-Monod. Dupont-Monod. This is just a short little translated historical fiction, and it is basically the life of Eleanor of Aquitaine, but told from the perspective of her son, Richard the Lionheart. And I just thought that was so interesting. I'd never heard of this book before. And of course, this cover just attracted me to it because it's so bright and colourful and so pretty. And I mean, do I look like her? Just imagine me with a crown. Can you see it? So yeah, I'm really, really keen to read this and see what I think and whether I should recommend it to you because I've never heard anybody talk about it. And now finally, actually into the books that I got from Daunt Books. So I went into Daunt Books specifically because I wanted to pick up the new paperback of The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. This is a book that I've heard so many people raving about, saying how fantastic it is. It is set in Dublin in 1918, set on a maternity ward when people are really suffering from the Spanish influenza. And I believe it's about how this group of women kind of come together during the space of about a week and the process of bringing life into the world while they're in the horror of a pandemic. I know whenever I've spoken about this book to other people, they've said they've been kind of wary to pick it up because obviously living in the middle of a pandemic, reading about a pandemic, it's not what everybody's about. And I originally hadn't been gravitating too much towards this, even though I am a fan of Emma Donoghue. I have previously liked her books. But then I remember watching Emma's video on the Book Break channel where she recommended different books based on Myers-Briggs personality types. And for anybody who was curious, when it comes to the Myers-Briggs personality types, I am an ISFJ, and this was the book that she recommended. And yeah, basically ever since I watched that video, I've wanted to read it. It was like, clearly this is a book that is meant for me. And I can definitely see that. I think ISFJs are meant to be people who really are good helpers. They want to look after people, so definitely maternity ward, people working in a hospital. I see that, I see that. I then went into the history section and I was so excited. I started making a lot of noise and I probably really embarrassed my friend. But I found Cnut, the North Sea King by Ryan Lavelle, which is the next book that I needed for the Penguin Monarch series. And I remember I actually really recently started complaining about the fact that I've not been able to find a physical copy of Cnut. And it's true, like I've been online, I've gone onto Bookfinder, I've put in the ISBN code and nobody has this book. Or if they have it, they're selling it off for like £50, which is not what this book is worth at all. The only way that I was going to be able to get this book was to buy it on ebook, but I don't really have anything that is capable of showing ebooks. I mean, actually no, I probably do have like on my phone or on my laptop a way of reading ebooks, but it's being bothered to work out how to do that. That I really struggle with. At one point I was even just considering skipping Cnut and going straight on to Edward the Confessor, but then I saw it. They had a big collection of the Penguin Monarchs books and they had it. So yeah, I was in the middle of Daunt Books, everybody was really quiet, and then I just let out this big squeal of I found the book! Oh, you should never take me shopping, I'm an embarrassment. So yes, rest assured all of you who are eagerly anticipating my Penguin Monarch series, I'm going to be able to do it properly, in order. And then the final book that I picked up in this whole big shopping extravaganza that has taken place over the last 2 months is this beautiful thing, The Children of Jocasta by Natalie Haynes, in this beautiful new paperback that has just come out. I've recently read Pandora's Jar by Natalie Haynes, so I've had Natalie on the brain, thinking about what a fantastic writer she is. I've really had like Greek myth retellings on the brain. So I had it in the back of my mind that next time I see Children of Jocasta that I should pick it up, which is usually published in this edition, which I've always thought to myself is not the prettiest thing in the world, but you know, I do want to read the story. And then I go into Daunt Books, I'm looking in their like Greece section, their Greece bookshelf, and this was just sat there like face out, and I saw it and I immediately was like, mine. So for those of you who don't know, this is a Greek myth retelling. It is a retelling of the myth of Oedipus. If you do not know the myth of Oedipus, I'm not spoiling it for you. All I can think of right now is Disney's Hercules, when they're talking about they went to see this play, this Oedipus thing. Man, I thought I had problems. It's a very dark joke for a kid's film. But no, it is told from the perspective of the children of Oedipus and Jocasta, which I can only imagine is not a great position to be in. And I have really recently read Antigone and I've read Oedipus Rex, but maybe I need to read them again. They're not the freshest in my mind, but I am just really excited to read this. Maybe I just need to read a little plot synopsis, because I'm kind of batting between this and Ariadne in terms of which book I want to pick up next. I'm just in that Greek myth retelling mood. We'd also seen a copy of the book Cassandra, which, of course, retelling about Cassandra, who foretold the fall of Troy, but nobody believed her. And that did look really interesting, but I kind of thought, like, I've just read Pandora's Jar, I've also just bought this and Ariadne, you know, maybe 3 Greek myth retellings, 4 Greek myth retellings in a row it would be, is maybe a bit too much. But anyway, yes, very excited to read this. And I am just looking at that pile, and I'm not sure how I feel about lifting all of that. You know, booktubers have these traditions like piling books up and showing them in the video and having them in shot, and it seems like a great idea in your head, and it feels like something that you want to take part in because you want to be in the booktube spirit, and then when you actually have to do it, this is just a really good advertisement for not buying loads of books in a short space of time. This is actually just going to be a bit ridiculous, I think. No. My hair's getting trapped in the book pile. Okay. This is going to give out. Ooh. So here we have all of the books. It's a lot, it's a lot. Very excited to read all of these. Probably not thought about how much this is going to impact my TBR pile, though I have read a few of these already, so that's good. Congratulations, I played myself. I'm just gonna really hope that I got a good thumbnail shot when I did that, because I'm not doing that again. Anyway, do let me know if you have read any of these books yourself, any that you're really interested in picking up after seeing them in my video, or alternatively let me know anything that you've picked up recently. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.